Greetings, greetings. Your brother Imhotep L coming back at you with another episode, another segment. Of course, as always, broadcasting on behalf of the number 13 SoundsAstrology.com. And as always, thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Now I know I kind of dropped it on you, kind of just like boom, the whole thing about the Astral Pyramid. And I kind of left a lot of holes open. That was done purposely. I decided to do that purposely because I find that, for one thing, this is our creative work. So you can kind of like add your own shit to it and take away your own shit as you see fit, like I'm just essentially giving you jewels and keys, but it's up to you what you do with them. So what I'm going to do here on this episode is just kind of tie up a few loose ends, if you will, to kind of like, I guess just to let ones know how to work on certain aspects of what I talked about on the last episode. Now, one of the first things that I want to focus on is this is still about the inner transmitter, of course. And what I want to do now is I want to focus on the terminology I was using. And as you guys know, I kind of broke it down like inner transmitter. And I want to kind of like go back into that and help you to understand like how to work with all 3 or 4 of those components here on this particular segment. Now, first and foremost, of course, you have the term inner transmitter. And one of the first things a person might ask themselves based on what I said on the last episode is that if this is the inner transmitter, then why am I going out doing all of this stuff? Like you told me to go out and, make transactions and go out and be in transit, and write down my numbers and all of this stuff. Why am I going out to do all of these things? That's kind of like the first thing or first aspect I want to address. See, the world around you, everything that you see, everything that you hear, taste, feel, and touch, all your 5 senses, really go back to just one sense, actually, which is touch. As one of the master teachers always taught us, there's only one sense, and that's the sense of touch. So everything around you, you're touching it. Your eyes are touching light. Your eyelids or your eyeballs are touching light so that you can see the light from the sun or just the light or the daylight in general. So you're touching light. When you touch with your hands, you're touching a wall. That's touch. When you taste something, your taste buds are touching the very chemicals and the very nutrients or whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're tasting. Your taste buds have to touch them first. So there's only one sense, which is touch, and that's the only way that we can really experience the 5 senses reality is through the sense of touch. So what I did was that I designed it because what you really are doing is you want to get in tune with you have 4 higher senses. Some people say there's more, some people say there's less. But I teach that you have 4 higher senses, so you really have 9 senses. It's like a cat has 9 lives, right? So you really have 9 senses because you have 4 higher senses. And for those people that haven't heard me teach this, you have the sense of telepathy, the sense of clairvoyance, clairaudience, and you have the sense of psychometry. These are your 4 higher senses. So when you activate your inner transmitter, what it's doing is that you're using your higher senses to communicate with physical beings, whether they're human beings, animals. It just depends on what your movie is or what your script is or what you're trying to write. And I haven't went into the writing aspect yet. I'm going to go into that eventually. But it depends on the type of movie you're trying to write, of course. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to teach you the very rudimentary principles. Like, almost imagine this is like literature 101. I'm just trying to teach you what the English alphabet means. And then once you get a good grasp over the English alphabet, then you can go out and write a bomb-ass movie. So that's basically essentially what I'm doing here on this episode. And I'm trying to teach you how to do this, how to write a movie based upon the higher senses. So that's why it's a very high concept to experience, but it's not really so hard to really understand because you do it every day. The only thing I'm doing is making you more conscious of what you are doing. So I'm just making you more conscious of the higher senses that are in your astrological or your spiritual makeup. And I'm teaching you how to use these higher senses to manifest reality. See, in The Secret, they just teach thoughts become things. And they throw out all of these universal laws and principles. However, nobody really took the time to really break it down for you, like scientifically. And we need that because we are going into the age of Aquarius. Like everything that I'm about to be dropping from now on is straight up age of Aquarius type of information. None of this Western old astrology. Straight up Aquarian type info from here on out. So we need someone, a teacher or somebody that's gonna take the time to walk us through this thing. So you want to use these higher senses to manifest reality. These higher senses. So this is why I told you that it's the inner transmitter. However, this is why I sent you out to do a lot of things. Now what I want to do is go into the different aspects. First and foremost, I said in the term inner transmitter, you see the term trans, which can go into transaction, translation. This can go into transit, anything with the trans in it. And essentially, anytime you're dealing with trans, you're dealing with something that's changing, something that's moving. This is the only constant in the universe. The only constant in the universe, or the only thing that's going to always happen on this damn universe and on this damn planet is shit going to be changing every day. Every time you get out that bed, it's going to be some new shit. And it's happening more and more on this plane, just like you seeing this stuff going on with this election. They saying one guy won the election. Now all of a sudden they saying there's a possibility that this guy didn't win the election. And that he might not, sit in that seat because people want to challenge the electoral college. And I'm going to make a video about that, but I'm just using that for an example. But eventually I'm going to make a video about this election. Because it was very, very fucking staged and rigged, as you know. But I'm not talking about that here. I'm not trying to get too conspiratorial. They already think I'm far out and shit. So, but anyway, so the only constant is change. So when you deal with, say, for instance, transactions, what you're learning how to do is that you're learning how to send out communications to the astral plane and to the spiritual plane without speaking, without talking. Because remember I said you can't talk about this thing. So that's the very key of understanding inner transmitter is that you can't use this mouth. Unless you're speaking in symbology, but that's going into another level. I can't speak on that right now. Unless you're speaking in what's called cryptic language. But I'm saying essentially right now for just the 101s, 102s, or 103s or whatever, you can't speak when you're dealing with the astral pyramid because you're learning how to write reality. This is what the inner transmitter is about. It's about learning how to write reality. Then eventually I'm going to go into the receiver, the inner receiver, which kind of ties into the transmitter. The inner receiver video probably won't be as long. And I'm going to go into that. But you're learning how to send out communications. So this is why I'm telling you that you have to be in different places. You have to always constantly be moving. You have to send out communications from various different points. And how far you go with this is up to you. Some of you that got cake, got that guap. You know what I'm saying? You might want to go get on the airplane and go on transit on the airplane and go over to Colorado. Like you might be in New York City. You might want to go to Colorado and you might want to send out some transits there, send out some communications in Colorado. Those people that may not have so much money, you might just want to go around your local town and do this. But at the end of the day, you want to go to different points and you want to send out communications so when you're in transit, it costs money, right? So you want to write down the totals of all the money that you spend. You want to write it down in proportions, in segments. So this is going into the other aspect of transactions. So, and then I'm going to go into translation, lastly. So you want to write down all of the totals of what you spent. So like say for instance you get on a train and you're like, okay, now I'm going to go to the Rocky Mountains. So you got to catch a train there, that's going to cost money, or an airplane depending on how far you are from it. Once you get there, you may have to pay an admission fee. You may have to get food because you might be chilling out in nature during that particular time. You might decide you want to shoot a couple selfies. So you want to write down all of your numbers. Any number that comes up during the course of this astral pyramid, you want to remember it. Really, you're not supposed to write them down. I don't write shit down. I remember it. I try to commit everything through the course of a day to memory because I look at each day as a scene in the movie. That's how I look at it. And it goes even deeper than that because I even get into the months, like the particular months. Like, say, for instance, right now we are in the month of November, you know, and I write down, so the month of November resonates with the number 11. So, you know, I'm trying to write or trying to play out certain scenarios predicated upon the number 11, which goes into translation. So I'm kind of jumping ahead. But right now, you just want to write down all the numbers when you're in transit and just practice doing that for a while. And try to get to the point where you don't write them down. Because if those of you remember to watch my Fooling Shapeshifters video, you'll understand why I'm saying don't write it down. You don't want to write it down because the shapeshifters will come in and begin to fuck with your movie. These are like the bad guys, you know, in your movie or whatever. Weird stuff will start happening if you start keeping too much of a paper trail. The more clean you are, see, we like to write clean. Real deep metaphysics. People that's in like this whole metaphysician thing, we like to write clean. We don't write down shit. We keep mental ledgers on everything, but you still have to remember this stuff, the numbers or whatever you're doing. And you might have a business. You want to write down all the totals of the transactions that you're doing. For those people that got businesses out there, you want to write that. You want to remember all of your numbers, and it's kind of hard to do depending on what your nature or your commerce, what you do every day. And it can get tricky, but just do it. So then you go into translation. Now, translation, that goes into, like, if I translate a particular language from one tongue to the next, or from one tone to the next, because really there's only one language and various different tones. But that's a whole nother story in and of itself too. But the translation aspect is when you begin. This is really going to kind of like go into another video. I'll talk a little bit about it here because I have to. But I'm going to do a video on how to, when you start getting into writing your script, this when translation really becomes very key. Because when you begin to like, it's called, see, it's one thing to experience your life, and it's another thing to make your life. Like to say, to have what's called deliberate intent. Those people that are deep in the metaphysics know what that is. It's called deliberate intent. And this is what you want to do when you get into writing deeply. You want to have what's called deliberate intent. And deliberate intent means that you said something, you wrote something to happen in the morning, or however you write your scripts, or you did it in memory, and it played out exactly the way you wrote it. That's called deliberate intent, and that's what you eventually want to do. So in order to be good at deliberate intent, you have to be a good translator. You have to be able to translate the numbers into meanings. And this is going to go into numerology. And of course, in my mentorship program, I plan on teaching a lot of this, but that's a whole other topic in and of itself, because that's just a whole other topic in and of itself or whatever, because we had some problems with the mentorship program thus far. So this is why I'm releasing a lot of this information publicly to, you know, kind of give like a thanks to all of the people that signed up for the mentorship program. And some people have not received their courses yet. And you're getting a lot of it right now here publicly on YouTube. And then for the people that tipped me, a lot of people tipped me, and they couldn't afford the mentorship program, but they like the information. So I'm about to just start putting shit out, because I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to really stop all this program stuff and just start putting all the information out there. And if you like it and you feeling it, you can just tip me, you know. Or if you feel the need to do that, you know, there always has to be an exchange that takes place. But I'm getting to a situation where I'm learning how to benefit without asking you guys from the information financially. I'm getting to that level now to where I don't have to say buy this product or do this or do that. So I'm getting to that point in my activating my astral pyramid. But anyway, back on course. So yeah, you want to learn how to translate numbers. You're going to have to know about the first principle of it is understanding numerology, but on the higher levels, you're going to have to understand the Kabbalah to get into deep translation, because you get into what's called fractions, decimals, because you may have totals that are like 235. That's a decimal. Or you may have numbers like, you may have, say for instance, you may get a locker number assigned or something when you go on transit. You may stay in a hotel or something and get a locker number or a room number assigned that has 3 numbers in it. These are numbers that are working in triplicity. When it's 3 numbers, they're working in triplicity. When it's 2 numbers, they're working in couples or doubles. When it's 4 numbers, this is a quad. This is working. These numbers are working together as a quadrant. So there's different levels to it. Then you have the quin. Different levels of the numbers working together in sequence. And there's a certain way you can read these numbers and they speak a language. But for right now, just I'm gonna drop videos on numbers as time goes on, and I'll break down each number from like 1 through 9 or 0 through 9, and that'll give you an understanding of the basics of numbers. And then eventually, as the years go on, I'll put out the numbers videos soon. I'm trying to keep these videos coming. I'll put the numbers videos out, within the next few months, but I'm not gonna probably get into decimals and all of that, unless you just, catch me and you really serious about taking the course. You shoot me an email and we hook up or something. And I sit down and chop it up with you and set up a course amount with you and break down my whole number scenario, because numbers are very key. And I'll break that whole thing down for you, but it's gonna cost, especially if you're talking about meet me in person to do it, or even on the phone or anything like that. Because I'm getting to a point, I'm getting really busy now, so it's gonna definitely cost. But if you guys wait, it'll eventually come up through YouTube. So yeah, you gotta be able to translate these numbers, and then you get into the mitter. I talked about the mite, or the mit, or the mitochondria DNA, which really goes into mite. Now mite goes into will, and this is kind of like writing your will. You have to learn how to will things into existence. And you will things to existence based upon your nature, based upon your mitochondria DNA, which means you have to have a good understanding of your mother's side of the family. Most of you know your mothers, some of you don't, but most of you that know your mothers, you can study your mother's side of the family. If you're a male, study the men on your mother's side of the family. What kind of men are they? And I'm not saying, I'm not discounting the father. We're going to get into the father on a separate part of the astral pyramid. This is going into Belzoni's chamber. This is going into a different part. I'm talking about the transmitter right now. So no diss to the fathers out there. Shout out to my father and all the fathers out there. But we're talking about right now just dealing with the sending out the communications. So you're going to have to have a really good understanding of your nature when you get into this transmitter, because this is going to kind of help you to understand what kind of scripts you might want to write. Like for instance, you might be in college. You want to say, well, I want to write a script that shows me graduating college and getting a job making $200,000 a year as a lawyer. Is that capable? Are you capable of that DNA wise? So you shouldn't do things. You're capable of anything. You can do anything in this world. But some of you have goals that go against your very nature, that go against your very ancestral line. Kind of sort of like you're gonna have to totally reprogram yourself to do it. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's why a lot of us fail. You want to have success in this life, because a lot of us are trying to be somebody else or do what somebody else is doing, and that may not be your path. The goal is as long as you're successful. Always remember that. You might not can't do what I'm doing, or I might not can't do what you're doing, but at the end of the day, are you successful at what you do? Do you feel successful at it? And that's based on your goals that you have set for yourself. But in order to even know that, to know your nature, beloved, to even know if you're successful, you got to know about yourself. You got to get into your mitochondria DNA, and this will help you to write your will, to be able to will things into existence. And when I say write your will, I literally mean that, because not only are you have to will things into existence like the wheels on a car moving, but you're going to have to will things into existence through the pen and through the power of spoken word. You're going to have to make a will for yourself, so that a legacy that you can eventually pass on to your children, because this is going to keep going on as you do it. So it gets very deep. I'm just on the very tip of the iceberg of it, but once you do all of that, then you can begin to learn how to receive it. And I'll go into that on the next episode. But you're going to learn how to receive everything that you wrote down, and then all these transmissions that you sent out, and these communications that you sent out. Now you have to learn how to receive it. It has to come back to you so that you can know this thing is working. So say, for instance, you chose your original casting. That took a transmission to do that. You had to figure out who you want to be in your cipher, your circle. You did all of that. You wrote down all your totals for your numbers. You know what numbers resonate with you and all of that. So now you're looking to receive. And I'm not going to spill the beans on that, because that's going into some other things that I'll talk about on a particular next episode. So I hope that helped. I really do hope that helped. I'm going to go ahead and shut down. But as always, I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. Be looking out for my next episode on the receiver and the episode on Kanye. I got a lot of shit to do. So let me go ahead and get up out of here. As always, peace.